What's going on, guys? It's Woodsy with my week 1 match for the QDL this time around. We got a pretty interesting matchup against Alex the Spaz this week, who has a Regenerator Core with Tangrowth and Slowking, along with some pretty good offensive threats with the Sand option with Tyranitar Excadrill, you know, the good old-fashioned combo together. And then also a Mega Pinsir option, which it's not as good as it used to be because of no return, obviously, but still definitely a huge threat, being able to just click Body Slam instead, which isn't really that much worse of a move. Sometimes it's even better to have Body Slam than it is return, so, you know, not really that big of a deal for Mega Pinsir. And then stuff like Klefki and Orbeetle support that kind of stuff pretty well, being able to get up hazards like Sticky Webs and Spikes and stuff, and then Klefki getting like Prankster T-Waves off and that kind of stuff. And then, you know, just adding on to his defensive backbone here, Licky Licky getting Wish Passes into some of, like, Tyranitar and Excadrill could be pretty bulky if they want to be. So getting Wish Passes into those kind of things is pretty nice. And then Sneasel just go to the offensive coverage option along with Girder and Magmar with some pretty good value picks there in the bottom. So going into the game plan with this stuff, I started off with just a flat-out offensive Scizor with Life Orb. I just thought that Bullet Punch was too good to not bring against his team, especially because a lot of the things that are going to be eating Bullet Punches are going to get blown back by Bug Bites, and like are slower than Scizor, stuff like Slowking and Tangrowth, who are like naturally, his walls are just going to get blown away by Bug Bite, and I'm going to be able to outspeed them. So I just thought this Scizor set could potentially be pretty good. The Brick Break is there, of course, for something like Excadrill, who does resist both of its stab. I think it was just for Excadrill. I mean, I guess it's technically good for Licky Licky and stuff too, and Magmar if you did decide to bring it, but I didn't really expect Magmar. But yeah, Scizor didn't really have any like specific role this match. I just thought it would be a pretty good offensive option in general, especially since I didn't really need speed on it, so just for being able to run max HP, I'm pretty much almost guaranteed to be able to live a hit from anything on his team, except for, you know, like obviously like a Magmar Flamethrower is probably going to blow me away, but yeah, it just seemed like a nice option to have on the team. After that, we have a physically defensive Zapdos, which is really the only thing on my team that can deal with Mega Pinsir all that well. And even then, Mega Pinsir does get options like Stone Edge to be able to break through Zapdos, so I have to be pretty careful about that. I think Stone Edge does do only like 60-ish or something like that if he's max attack, so you know, it's something that I can play around, and I do huge damage with Volt Switch, and even Heat Wave if he decides to not Mega. But also a very good option against Excadrill, who again doesn't get Rock Slide coverage, but could still be a pretty good option against it, as well as just a bunch of various things against this team. Like, it's pretty good for his Regenerator Core and Slowking and Tangrowth, and, you know, I mean, it's good for bringing in on Klefki because it is my Defogger. Same with Orbeetle. Like, it really just has a good matchup against almost everything on his team, with the exception of, like, Tyranitar and, like, maybe Sneasel. So I think just generally speaking, like, he has a really hard time breaking through this, and then that Volt Switch Heat Wave coverage is going to be chipping down his team a lot. Going past that, we have our Stealth Rocker for the week in Garchomp. Again, I guess he does kind of have a specific role, being able to check Tyranitar for the week, and you know, being able to be like a pseudo check to something like Excadrill in an emergency, because I don't want to have to rely on Zapdos all that much for Excadrill, because like I said, it's really my best Pinsir answer, and he can break me down just with Pinsir alone, so I want to keep it healthy for that. But Earthquake is just so good against his team, which is why I'm running the Soft Sand. And all of the things on his team that do deal with an Earthquake get blown away by a Fire Blast. Like, Tangrowth has pretty bad special defense, so Fire Blasts are going to be doing a big damage to it. Same thing with like Mega Pinsir. Mega Pinsir is a lot bulkier on the physical side, which is why I opted to run Fire Blast over Fire Fang, because Fire Blast is going to be doing a lot more damage to Tangrowth and Scizor, or Pinsir. And, you know, also pretty good option for Orbeetle, which would be his other ground resist. And then, other than that, just my general Stealth Rocker, threw Toxic on it just to be able to break through some of his walls. Like, something like a physically defensive Licky Licky doesn't get two-shot by Earthquake. So I just thought Toxic would be a nice option to throw on there. And then, going past that, we have Shell Smash Blastoise. Even though this is like seemingly a straight up offensive set, it could also be used as like an emergency, again, like for something like that Excadrill, because it's going to be able to eat a hit from it, and like something like T-Tar could eat a hit from it and do a lot of damage with a Surf. So I am running max attack modest because at +2, I do not need the speed to outspeed anything on his team. It will just outspeed everything except for Excadrill in the sand, which is not something that I would outspeed anyway, even if I had a plus speed nature. But being able to not really have to run all that much speed to outspeed everything at +2, I can run a decent bit of HP, which is why I was saying, like, I can, if I need to, use this as a defensive option during the game as well. Running the white herb just to be able to keep that bulk that I was talking about, because this thing really, like, almost OHKOs everything on his team at +2, and the things that it doesn't OHKO, like his walls and, like, Licky Licky and Slowking and stuff, don't really do anything to me other than, like, maybe Toxic me. So, they can't really, like, Toxic stall me out because I do have setup options. And they're not going to really be doing that much damage because it is so bulky. Like, Slowking is Psychic or something like that isn't going to do any damage to Blastoise, so I can kind of just sit in front of it and spam Dark Pulse on it, or even set up I think if I set up a second Shell Smash, it's pretty much GG. I think the only thing you would have to deal with that would be, like, Quick Attack from Pinsir. Or maybe, like, T-Wave from Klefki, I guess. But, yeah, and I mean, like, Mach Punch or whatever, you know, priority stuff, but, you know, because Blastoise is so bulky, it could maybe even live a priority hit and still keep chugging along there. After that, we have Focus Sash, Lycanroc Dusk. Again, bringing, this was originally Blaziken in this spot, but I thought that I was too weak to Mega Pinsir, so I did decide to bring Lycanroc instead, because it is pretty much a guaranteed revenge killer on it with Accelerock. And Stone Edge also threatens him a lot. Stone Edge plus Close Combat, I think, hits everything on his team at least neutrally effective. And then Endeavor just seems like a good pairing with that Focus Sash, because I do have that Accelerock also, so if I get down to 1 HP, like somebody brings me down to my Sash, I could just always Endeavor it, get it down to 1 HP, and then finish it off with the Accelerock. So just seemed like a decent option for stuff like his tanks, like Licky Licky and stuff, who, or like Slowking and Tangrowth, actually, more specifically, because Lycanroc has a hard time breaking through Slowking Tangrowth, so I thought the Endeavor on it was a good way to kind of bypass that. Finally, we have Mega Gardevoir, who is Hyper Voice is just simply too good to not bring against him. Just bring an offensive Gardevoir set, just spam Hyper Voice on him. His only resist, I think, are Excadrill and Klefki, who do take I do get 2-shot by Mystical Fire. I am running Substitute just so that I can, you know, maybe avoid a Toxic or something from one of his walls, or maybe if I have to make a prediction on a turn, I think Substitute always makes it a little easier on you, so you don't always have to, like, if I think he might go Excadrill, but, like, I'm not sure, and I know that I'm gonna live a hit from, like, the Tangrowth that's sitting in front of me or something like that, I could always just do a pretty risk-free Substitute. And then from there, I don't really have to predict in the turns afterwards. And then again, Toxic, just because something like especially defensive Licky Licky is going to be able to probably eat to Hyper Voices and stuff. So this is also like my main switch into his Regenerator core, because I actually don't plan on Mega-ing this in the early game. So I'm going to want to trace his Regenerator from Tangrowth and Slowking so I can continuously switch in on them, which does seem silly because, like, I do need the Pixelate for Hyper Voice to be doing damage, but I could at least spread Toxics around and that kind of stuff in the early game. And then, yeah, I do plan on probably evolving at mid-game and then firing off Hyper Voice and such. So, looking at the team that he brought, it was just really a lot of stuff I did not expect at all. Like, didn't really expect the Girder at all, didn't really expect the Klefki at all. I definitely didn't expect Orbeetle at all. So, it was interesting. Like, I had to kind of, like, mix up my mindset going into this game a little differently. But I did just lead Zapdos because I thought Pinsir was the biggest threat to me at Team Preview, as he does decide to lead it. So, rather than switching out like I thought he did, which is why I went for the Volt Switch, he does just decide to get a Swords Dance up in my face. But, like, even so, I'm still okay with that, because as you can see, I just go into Lycanroc to Revenge Kill anyway. And get a big Stone Edge off of here, get a little bit of information on his Slowking EV spread and such, and I could just go into my Gardevoir, which is my designated early game. Switch into this, and like I said, just kind of spread Toxics around us. He does reveal to be Trick Room, which is really interesting, because Trick Room is very good against my team, as you can see. The only thing that's really, that's slow on my team is Scizor. So he gets in his Girder, and I see at this point, when he gets his Girder in, that, you know, knowing that he's Trick Room, I know he's probably not a Violite. I know he's probably a boosting item, and since he's not Flame Orb Guts, because it would have procced that turn that he came in, I know he's probably Life Orb Sheer Force. So a poison jab from that set does Oko my Gardevoir, which is why I got on out of there and went into my Zapdos, who does not really take that much, but he does reveal to have the Ice Punch on my Roost here. So no, looking at the roll at the 57%, and I'm at 62, I'm thinking like, okay, maybe there's a pretty good shot that I'm going to live this next one, and I could just stall out the Trick Room terms. But unfortunately, that is not the case. He gets a much higher roll this turn, and he is going to knock out my Zapdos, which leaves me really weak to this Pinsir later in the game. As well as realistically this Girder. If this Girder is in Trick Room, it kind of, assuming that it has like Fire Punch for the Scizor, Ice Punch, Oko's Garchomp, Poison Jab, Oko's Gardevoir, and then, you know, like Fighting Move is enough to deal with the two of these things. That is something that I definitely have to keep in mind. So I can't really let this Girder get set up in Trick Room in the late game. I am able to just go into Gardevoir here to Revenge Kill, and because I get the Sheer Force off of it, Mystical Fires in my base form are going to be doing a lot of damage to this Klefki, and I am going to be able to two-shot it without Mega Evolving, which is really nice because I could keep that Trace for later on to keep coming in on Slowking and get Regenerators. So he is going to go into Pinsir here to pick up the Revenge Kill. I have the option, knowing that I am Focus Sash on my Lycanroc, I could just go hard into it, knowing that I'm going to resist any move he goes for that isn't Earthquake anyway. So he does go for the Body Slam and only does 48%. I predict that he's going to switch out here, which is why I go into my Gardevoir, because I want to get some damage in, because I know he's probably just going to go Slowking that turn, right? And I don't want to let him get Trick Room up for free, knowing that Stone Edge is going to be doing 0 damage to this thing. So I get in my Gardevoir. I decide the Mega because I don't need that area late, and I just want to get damage off. So I am going to fire off a Hyper Voice, which is going to two-shot him, as a Surf does almost nothing to me, because Gardevoir is very bulky even without the investment. And I'm just going to be able to spam Hyper Voice here and pick up a KO on his Orbeetle. So after this, looking like I'm in a pretty good spot. He doesn't really have switch-ins to anything on my team at this point, but I do still have to be careful of not letting him get the Trick Room up and being careful of this Pinsir, because I don't have a switch into this thing anymore. I have to keep my Lycanroc healthy. I couldn't go into it hard this time because I do have to keep this thing around to get have my Revenge Killer, because it is the only thing on my team that could Revenge Kill this thing at this point, at least reliably. So I decided I pretty much could just sack Scizor at this point. Paralysis doesn't really matter because I was just sacking it anyway, knowing that Bullet Punch wasn't going to kill it from there. And yeah, again, just go into my Lycanroc. Since I made a play last time, I decided to just stay in and click the Excel Rock. I didn't want to miss Stone Edge, so I just clicked the Excel Rock. And he did stay in, probably predicting me to make another double on that turn. And I'm able to get rid of one of his big threats there. And he gets in a Slowking though after that, unfortunately, so I know that there's no way that I could really stop him from getting a Trick Room up. So Lycanroc is pretty much not really any, it doesn't provide me any use at this point. I mean, yeah, Close Combat does a lot to Tethor, but I don't really need it for Tethor. So I decide that I'm probably just going to stay in here and try to stall as many Trick Room turns as I can, and probably just give him my Lycanroc. So I am just going to click Stone Edge. As you can see, Stone Edge was going to two-shot his Slowking, so predicting he's probably going to switch, I get Close Combat off, not letting him get hit in his Girder like completely for free at least. And then knowing that he's just going to KO me with something here, I'm going to go for the Accelerock and get that extra 13% chip, which is actually key because I think that put him in range of an Earthquake from Garchomp. But after doing calcs and realizing that he is Ice Punch and Thunder Punch and Poison Jab, he does obviously have super effective moves for all three of my Mons, and I figured out that Blastoise was the only thing that didn't get flat out O-code. So I do just go into my Blastoise here, and I am just going to be able to Surf and knock it out because I did get that chip on it with the Lycanroc, which is great at this point. Only one turn of Trick Room left, so I know the only way that I lose this game at this point is if he gets up another Trick Room. So to not let him do that, I decide that I'm going to click Shell Smash here because that forces him to either A, kill me this turn, and then I could just get in something like Gardevoir and Clean, or I can, or if he tries to switch or click something like a Teleport or something like that that isn't an offensive moon, I just get a Shell Smash off and Trick Room ends at the end of this turn and I just sweep. So that is exactly what happens. He goes into his Tyranitar to get Regenerator health back on his Slowking. And as I click Shell Smash, Trick Room ends, and I'm going to be able to just click Surf until everything on his team is dead. Didn't really matter that he wouldn't. I mean, yeah, Slow King would have lived a hit for me, but it's not like it would have won him the game or anything. At this point, Garchomp and Gardevoir both could have just easily cleaned after I got a little bit of chip on Slow King, so it didn't really matter that he went hard into it rather than saving it to kill my Blastoise. I mean, he maybe could have got the 2-0 instead, but it's not like it mattered for me losing the game. So GG to Alex. He had a lot of interesting stuff. He caught me really off guard throughout the game, so he definitely kept me on my toes. I was definitely scared of that Girder a lot, and the Pinsir too, even. So yeah, it was a fun game. I really had to work for the win, but we start off the season with a bang here, getting the 3-0 victory, and with that, we're gonna keep on chugging in the week 2, hopefully.